traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elconin. Welcome to Pre-Market Info.
Microsoft is losing another executive here today. Stock falling in the pre-market almost another point. The market's also down 5.5. Not looking to shape up to be a very good trading day for the bulls. We're going to talk about earnings from Home Depot, Coors, DKS, and Saks. Cisco will report tonight. Joel, let's start with Microsoft.
Loses a top executive. I mean, this stock is in trouble in the pre-market. We've hit a low here at 27.12 just a few minutes ago. You have to go back to the monthlies, Dennis, to start finding some numbers in this area. I'm sure 27 will be a little bit of psychological support, but we might be looking over the next few days, if this continues, the January low this year at 26.39.
Steven Sinofsky resigning. Many people thought he might be the successor to Ballmer, so obviously that's not going to happen. And then Ballmer's comments yesterday. Here I am saying in Chicago, I kind of like the Surface. I looked at the thing. I did say the store, it was fairly busy, but nothing like the Apple store. But Ballmer comes out obviously yesterday and says that the sales haven't been that great already on the Surface. So despite my buddy buying one, stocks is falling down here. Glad that I sold my Microsoft, I guess, a few days ago and I haven't rebought it. But I'm still overall impressed with that Surface product. But I just, there's a lot of bad things happening here, Joel. Ballmer, obviously, with his comments, Sinofsky resigning. The stock did go ex-dividend today, too, for 22 cents. So your adjusted close is $27.99. So the stock is down 80 cents here at $27.19 in the pre-market. Not a good day for Microsoft.
I mean, 2 million shares, too, is, that can't be ignored. Once again, traders that are looking to try and pick a bottom on this, try and wait to this 9.15, 9.20 time and see probably gets down near the $27 level. You got to figure, though, if you were short this stock and this kind of news comes out, pick this up, at a level you haven't seen since the beginning of the year, you might get a little bounce on this one. I'd say you see, where are we at? We're at 27.19. I say you see 27.50 before you see 26.90.
So you want to make a bet here. Nah, I'm not going with that. It's due for a little... I tend to lean the other way, but not worth making a bet on. I'm sitting on my hands on this Microsoft trade just because it is breaking down through areas. Sure, it can bounce. Anything can bounce a bit, but the trend is not your friend here. I do think the stock may eventually continue to go lower as well, despite me liking the Surface. Apple, obviously Apple here had a pretty decent day for a while. Yesterday was holding up and then slowly started to come down, but obviously today trading down a couple more dollars.
Yeah, if you were looking to sell the previous day's high, Friday's high was 554.88. Stopped just shy of that at 554.50 and then rolled over. You do have three lows here in the 530 handle, 533 up to 538. So let's call that whole area 535 as major support. If that's taken out, I'm looking for another down leg in Apple, perhaps down to that 528 level we've talked about a few times. The low in the pre-market is 538.20 and the high is 42. So those are some early parameters here in Apple.
Lots of earnings here today. It's retailer earnings week here, starting with Home Depot. They reported earnings. They were good, 74 cents against estimates of 70, so they beat by 4 cents. Stock is getting a decent lift here in the pre-market, 62.5. It's trading right now after closing at 61.16. But look out, you've got three tops right in here in the 63 area from the last couple of weeks. We get up to that area, I gotta think we're gonna find some sellers.
Yeah, in pre-market, you've hit a high at 62.75. I do see, though, that triple top up there at 62.91, 63. I think that's going to be a huge area. You're getting a dollar pop here, 70,000 shares. Just, probably a good opportunity to sell some stock here around the $63
Yeah, I
level.
think if it gets up a little bit higher, I probably will try some shorts as well. Let's do a technical on lows because obviously that can move with it a bit. Lows just up a few cents here in the pre-market. 32.02 is just where it's just had a one tick there. So trading up a bit on the Home Depot earnings, but not much.
Yeah, you did get a spike to 32.30. Has not been able to hold that level since it printed up there. Not much volume at all associated with it. For this lows, I would look to make sure, 32.21. That was yesterday's high. Previous day's high at 31.99. So some sellers in there. I'd use that as a major resistance. If this falls back under 32, underneath the close, we could be going back down to 31.50.
Don't die on me, Joel. Don't die on me there. Michael Kors also reported earnings here. 49 cents against estimates of 40. They raised guidance by a bit, but this is what happens to stocks when they have high multiples. They beat on the bottom, they beat on the top. Doesn't matter. The stock's down $2.50 here. Actually, believe it or not, this traded into the 45 handle after the earnings. So, despite having great earnings and a good outlook, it doesn't matter when you have high multiples. If you don't really kill it, they beat up the stock.
Yeah, what do they sell anything besides shoes and like high-end purses?
I don't know. I don't
And I
shop
know,
there.
okay, 45.67 is the low it hit in the pre-market. Getting a nice bounce off that. I've hit 48.75 after that. Major support though, I would just look at this the gap to fill here. It's quite a ways to go. You had a gap going back from 40 in
Back in
earlier.
August.
Yeah, back in August. Kind of looks like it wants to go back and fill that area. I think if it gets anywhere near, the $50 level again, it'd be some huge resistance. Still $2 away from there, but sure looks like it wants to fill that big gap from August.
Dick's Sporting Goods also reported earnings, and they were good. They're up. They beat by 3 cents only, 40 versus 37. This is a whole thing about high multiples versus fair multiples. Dick's doesn't have a crazy multiple on the stock, and they beat by a few cents, and the stock actually goes up. So always scary to hold those high multiple stocks into earnings. But Dick's here is bouncing $50.68. Closed at 48.70, so it's up $2 on their earnings report.
You got up to 51 and a quarter in the pre-market. We have pulled back. Boy, it's a ways away from this major resistance around the 52. Yeah, the $52 level. I think I would just keep my eye early in the session on 51.38. That was the high on the 6th of this month, so that would be your resistance point.
SKS, which is Saks, also reported they came in line 12 cents against estimates of 12 cents. Hasn't hardly been any trades at all to talk about. 500 shares just traded at 9.55, which would put it down 30 cents, but it is bid there as well, offered at 9.78. So it does appear to be looking a bit weaker. The low that jumps out to me is the one that we set back there in late June at 9.52. That could be maybe where the stock has a little pause anyways, but here's a company that's much like J.C. Penney we were talking about yesterday, really needs to reinvent itself.
Yeah, that 952 low in June, that coincides nicely with the 951 low that you had in the middle of the month, and then the other low at 939. But you got to expect a little support here at the 950 level. Very few trades in the pre-market, but you have to use yesterday's low 980 as resistance.
Then J.C. Penney I'd like to talk about here. Bill Ackman was on CNBC this morning basically talking his book, saying that he does think the company is eventually going to turn around. I got a kick out of what he said there with the Joe Fresh. He says that's one of the best Canadian apparel shops, and they're going to be selling their products as well. The whole thing with Joe Fresh, though, is they put it in all the grocery stores in Canada, so it's kind of like gives everybody something else to do when you're shopping for groceries. You can look at a few clothes, too. J.C. Penney is not a grocery store, so interesting that J.C. Penney is going to be selling the Joe Fresh, and that's going to be the big turnaround. I challenge that.
Wow, usually when Ackman speaks, you get a little bit more of a bounce than you do unless it's bid higher, only up 18 cents. Yeah, keep an eye. Yesterday's low was 17.90. I haven't really traded down there in the pre-market. Probably some bids going to be accumulating at 18, but sure have to look for like a double bottom, a triple bottom for something to lean on in the stock before you stick your nose out on the long side. What a disaster.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem any reason. I would not want to be trying to pick a bottom in the stock. Like you always say, wait for it to do a double bottom, wait for something. But fundamentally speaking here, you are just buying a company that is in trouble. And until they start to turn around, if they can, I just don't see any reason. Like those same store sales, I'm going to keep reiterating. It's the third time I've said it, 3 consecutive shows. Same store sales down 26%. You can't touch something like that from the long side. It's just hasn't found a bottom yet. Let it find its bottom. If maybe if you want to make a trade, but make sure you have an out. And if you're looking, if it starts cutting through yesterday's low of 17.90, I would not want to be long this stock. GBX. Carl Icahn in another position here. He's disclosed a 9.9% stake in Greenbrier Companies, trucking company here. $15.26 is where it's trading and bid at right now on the Icahn spike.
Yeah, right there, 15.28 is what it hit in the pre-market. Boy, this stock had a bad day a little over a week ago, so you are entering this vacuum area here all the way up to 16.23. Don't see a whole lot in the book before that. 9,000 shares, not a lot of volume, but this is what Icon's known for. Accumulating the stock and getting a pop in it, and it's getting some believers today. This is not a real heavily traded issue, so I'd be careful. Playing this thing. Yep,
gonna be thin.
This is a trade by appointment only.
Dow Chemical getting an upgrade from Goldman Sachs on valuation here. Stock is up a bit in the pre-market, just ticked 29.15 on a day we're down 7. So Dow Chemical looks like it's going to try to have a decent day. Yesterday's high was 29.41. Maybe that's the first resistance point.
Valuation, huh?
Valuation. They find value in Dow Chemical.
Okay, 29.15 is just where we're kicking around here in the pre-market. Use yesterday's high, 29.41, as resistance. You do have good support at 28.50, but doesn't look like the Goldman upgrade's going to carry a lot of weight today in Dow Chemical.
Cisco reports earnings tonight. Obviously, that stock has been very weak for the last month and a half, so very weak coming into the earnings report. What do you think Cisco's going to say tonight?
They're going to say that they have a triple bottom between 16.68 and 78, so you definitely have found a buyer here at that area. I think that they had earnings, so keep, that support should maintain even though in a weak market. Below that, you had a low at 16.46 back in August, but this thing has really fallen off a cliff since trading over 19.50 back in September. But I just would focus on that support. If it breaks through there, you'd have to cut the long loose.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of scared on the Cisco. I still have a few shares in my investment portfolio, but I've dumped 3/4 of my position. I've had Cisco shares for a number of years now in my investment portfolio, and I dumped back in the 18s about a month and a half ago, almost all of it. I've got just a few hundred shares left, so just a kind of a feeler position, but I'm just not in love with Cisco. I think I need to hear something good from a quarter for me to start liking this again, and I'm definitely nervous going into earnings with it.
Or they never can put 2 quarters together.
Well, you can go back and look. They usually can put 2 misses together. They never do put 2 bad quarters together. They usually put a few good quarters, or they never put 2 good quarters together, but they often do put bad quarters together. So, yeah, that's interesting from Cisco as well. Overall market here, Joel, obviously we're weak here again. We made the low a few sessions ago back at 1363.50. Can we test that today?
Now, we did get down to 1365.75 in the pre-market, so we are getting a nice bounce off that level. I think we will get down and test that low early in the session. You keep an eye on this 1372.50 area as resistance. That was yesterday's low, so you're running into some trouble there. The Globe XI was only a little bit above the close by 0.75, 1379. Boy, I tell you, this just doesn't seem to be a lot. I mean, we're past earnings season. We've sold off the
Hmm.
elections, behind us. There really doesn't see a lot of drivers to get us back up to 1400.
I mean, we are coming into seasonality. Your retailers often do start to turn around as we approach the Christmas season. You have a lot of them reporting here this week. We've got Walmart and Target are going to be on Thursday. You've got more retailers on Wednesday. Foot Locker and Taylor on Friday. Limited on Wednesday. Abercrombie and Fitch on Wednesday. We are just packed with retailer earnings. So obviously keep an eye on those to see what the consumer is saying a bit as well. But it's hard. It's very hard to be buying this market because I just don't see, like you were saying, we're past the election. I don't see a lot of overall catalysts here yet, and I don't like the fact that we've just kind of hung out here 10 points above the lows for the last couple of days without any significant bounce. Makes me think that we are going to go back, possibly retest, and possibly take out those lows. Even a stock like Apple, I was saying, I think the bottom might be in, but it just continues to hang out down here. And as it continues to hang out, more people start to accumulate it long, and that's more people to punish. The market always likes to punish the maximum amount of participants. So I'm kind of nervous here from the long side.
Okay, I'd have to agree with you on that. And that's our show for today, folks, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.